For those who don't know, can you explain the microbiome to us?
It's really the word we use for the community of all the microbes, microscopic bugs that are in your gut. And 99% of all the body's microbes are actually in the lower part of your intestine. And so it's this group of them, and they include bacteria, archaea, there's viruses in there, there's parasites, there's fungi, yeast, and they're all there, and it's that group of them, like, in a rainforest or in a garden.
So when it comes to maintaining that harmony within our microbiome, is it our genetics, epigenetics, environment?
Well, it's not the genetics. That's a really tiny part of it. And so even identical twins, as we found, have very different gut microbes. And you're born sterile. So you get quite a few microbes from the messy childbirth process. If you have a cesarean section or a natural birth, you get a slightly different mix of these bugs. And then the first 3 or 4 years of life, you're getting them from wherever, whether it's your other siblings, it's the dog licking you. Every time you take a medicine, it can change your gut microbes. Every time you get any sort of infection in life, you take antibiotics. You live in a country or you live, in a rather sterile urban environment. It's whether you're breastfed or not, all kinds of things. And that really creates this real diversity between us so that no two people really have exactly the same adult microbes.
So when we look at ailments such as diabetes or depression, how much does our gut microbiome play a role in all of this?
Hugely. Is the simple answer. We know at least 5 brain chemicals that our microbes actually produce. And obviously they're producing it for a reason, it's not just random. So things like serotonin, things like dopamine, there's even one called GABA, which is a relaxant that is like taking Valium. And they're all produced by our gut microbes. So that's why we know that poor diets, dysfunctional gut microbes can lead to things like depression and anxiety, and that can be reversed by a change in your diet or probiotics or, even sometimes poo transplants.
So if you're wanting to make that big change and support your microbiome and general health, where would you start?
Well, there are several broad principles, because what we want to do is to maximise the number of different species we have in our gut and increase the good bugs compared to the bad bugs. First is to eat 30 different plants a week. So you're getting plenty of variety. It's not just eating kale or spinach, it's nuts, it's seeds, it's herbs, it's spices. They're all plants. Even coffee, my favourite health drink. Each plant we eat has hundreds, if sometimes thousands of different chemicals. And our microbes are very specific. There's a microbe that only eats coffee. So that's number 1. Number 2 is eat the rainbow, which we've known about for a long time, but we didn't really know why. It's the fact they also have a group of chemicals in them. If it's brightly coloured and it's bitter, it's going to have polyphenols.
Fabulous.
And I think this is a word we're going to hear much more about. Defence chemicals that microbes use for energy. Third is more fermented foods. Rather than just having one giant yoghurt smoothie once a week, you've got to have small amounts, regular and often. Then there's a couple of things to bear in mind. Give your microbes a rest. Like, we all need sleep. Sleep's hugely important for our gut health. Try and leave 12 to 14 hours where you're not eating. So cut out those late night lamingtons in front of the telly, They're not a good thing, because just before going to bed, really bad, and we now know why. And then finally, we should be eating more real food, whole food, and less ultra-processed, hyper-palatable food. Because A, it's got fibre and it's got real structure to it the microbes need, but also it doesn't have those extra chemicals which are having really negative effects, things like artificial sweeteners, the emulsifiers, all those things. It is an empowering message, because for so long we've been told, it's genetics, it's the fate, we're surrounded by environment, it's living in a city, it's all this stuff you can't do much about. But no, we can. And, if we all went on to an optimum diet, we would reduce common chronic disease by 70% and, save everybody a fortune as well.